News when you want it. With Bloomberg News Now, I'm Amy Morris. President Trump has formally agreed to an interim peace deal with Iran, shifting focus now to the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and a complex 60-day negotiating period over Tehran's nuclear program. The deal includes the reopening of the strait, with Iran arranging passage of commercial ships with no charge for 60 days and traffic to be reinstated within 30 days. Vice President J.D. Vance.
Last night, 12.5 million barrels of oil went through the Strait of Hormuz. That is a high since the beginning of the conflict. Oil prices are down nearly at their level from the pre-war conflict. Gas prices dropped below $4 a gallon today for the first time since the conflict. And importantly, they're going to keep falling further given how low oil prices are.
Vice President J.D. Vance telling reporters at the White House that today marks the start of the 60-day period for talks that should lead to a final agreement. Bloomberg Intelligence senior defense research analyst Wayne Sanders says this deal provides more clarity around the Strait of Hormuz.
The opening for Iran's side of the house, the fact that they actually have one singular voice right now that's saying that we're moving forward with this deal is a really good sign. The fact that this is actually a solid effort coming out from them, I think is a really good sign right now.
Retired Colonel Wayne Sanders was a guest on Bloomberg Surveillance, and Politico is reporting that the White House has now sent the Memorandum of Understanding to Congress. We're also learning that a growing stream of stranded oil is making its way out of the Strait of Hormuz. Ships carrying nearly 10 million barrels of oil have either emerged outside the strait or they're sailing through, including the first Saudi-owned tankers since the beginning of the war, the first step in what would be a months-long process to unwind the effects on global energy markets. Also, the CEO of Kuwait Petroleum tells Bloomberg that the country has already started boosting oil output and could top 2 million barrels a day within a week. He says enough repairs have been made to get production back to pre-war levels sooner than expected. Checking those oil prices now, WTI crude down nearly 3%, near $75 a barrel, and Brent crude down about 2.5%, just over $77 a barrel. The labor market is also showing signs of stability in the latest round of weekly jobless claims. Bloomberg's Michael McKee with those numbers.
226,000 initial jobless claims, and that's a decline from 230,000, which is revised up from 229 last week. Either way you look at it, it shows jobless claims relatively stable. They've moved up over the last couple of weeks, but not significantly.
Bloomberg's Mike McKee. At Wall Street staging a comeback. We check those markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 up 0.9%, NASDAQ up 1.2%, and the Dow up 0.3%. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.43%, the 2-year yield at 4.15%. SpaceX shares now down about 8%, falling for a second straight day as it wraps up its first week as a public company. The stock is on track to end this week nearly 40% above its $135 IPO price, despite the volatility likely to continue as investors weigh expectations for future revenue growth. Charles Schwab President and CEO Rick Wurster says retail investors drove strong demand.
I think for the retail investor who was allocated roughly 20% of the deal, which is triple a typical IPO. So it's great to see retail having a meaningful seat at the table. It created tremendous engagement with our clients and broadly with retail clients. Demand was off the charts, and that demand continues. We've seen in the 3 days following the IPO.
Charles Schwab, President and CEO Rick Wurster on Bloomberg Surveillance. Intel's stock is surging after President Trump said the chipmaker will work alongside Apple to design and produce semiconductors domestically. Trump made the comment in a post on social media but did not elaborate on the partnership. Apple has held exploratory discussions about using Intel and Samsung Electronics to produce the main processors for its devices in the U.S. Intel shares now more than 8% higher. The Supreme Court today sided with a Texas man who says it is not a crime for marijuana users to have guns. The decision is a loss for President Trump's Republican administration, which defended the 1968 law despite arguing against other gun restrictions. The measure was also used in a case against Hunter Biden. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.